Welcome everyone. You're watching a special episode of The Bottom Line. I'm Aashmeeta, and today we're in Hicksville talking with the folks that are running for the Town of Hempstead supervisor, as well as some town board seats and the county clerk. Joining me today is the individual running for the town supervisor, Mr. Don Clavin. Don, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much for having me. Delighted.
Of course. We're going to jump right into this. The Town of Hempstead is the largest township in the United States, 800,000 residents, like we discussed, larger than some states' populations, right?
Absolutely.
And you are running to be the essentially CEO of this town,
right?
Absolutely. Before we get into your background and what you're bringing to the table, tell us a little bit about what the role of supervisor specifically for a town this size entails.
Yeah, as you said, the Town of Hempstead is the largest township in America, larger than, I believe, at this point, 7 states. We have a population of about 800,000 people, and it runs from Elmont all the way to Seaford. It runs from Atlantic Beach all the way up to Floral Park. It's a really populated area, very diverse area, and the supervisor is responsible from anything that's roads, to maintaining roads, to getting the potholes fixed, to garbage collection, to maintaining parks, to senior enrichment, to economic development. The town supervisor really is responsible for steering the ship of all of these different services that the residents rely on and want done properly.
So now, coming into this role that you are up for, up in this election, you have experience in local politics, but not specifically this role. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing up until now.
Well, since 2001, I've been the receiver of taxes, a very popular position in the Town of Hempstead. And all joking aside, it's a very large position. I collect over $2.5 billion a year in tax revenue and invest it and have to distribute that out. I work closely with the school districts I collect for. It's over 33 of them, all the special districts, and we're responsible for the collection through the taxpayers, and as I said, the investment, and distributing it out to everybody. The office itself, we see almost 55,000 people who come through the taxpayer doors every year to pay in person. So we try to focus on a couple of unique things in the office. One, customer service. Nobody's ever happy to come to the tax office. We don't want them to wait online. So we've instituted some positive changes like extending office hours during the busiest times of the year, the last 10 days of every tax cycle. We've created drive-through mechanisms where people can pull up right to the back of the office and make their tax payment through their car windows, which has become very, very popular, and we had to build a second one of those. We have also created satellite locations where people can go to different locations in the town and make their tax payments there so they don't have to drive to the center hub. The best part of all this is there's no additional cost to the taxpayers. We did that with existing personnel. And we bring them in at different hours and different shifts. So I'm a firm believer in you can provide a better service and it doesn't have to cost more. In addition, I've tried to embrace technology. I always said the first day I became the receiver of taxes, when I walked in, there were trays of mail. And I'd say, what is this? And they say, oh, Don, these are the tax payments. And I'd say, well, how long is it going to take to process that? And they would say weeks. And I said, weeks? I put an end to that. We went out. We now have these payments processed by an outside bank where they're deposited within 48 hours, digitally scanned. In addition to that, and what's the benefit really of that is that tax revenue is quicker for us, better return on our investment, and maybe there were some taxpayers who weren't happy that we were depositing them so quickly, but that's the trade-off. In addition to that, just last year we were the very first tax office in all of New York State to implement e-billing. It's 2019. I get all my bills electronically sent to me. The only mail I get home is bulk mail. And to think I had to go to Albany and lobby our state legislators to provide that option now the taxpayers, well, we rolled it out, and we've already been able to get thousands of residents who get their tax payments via electronically. What's the trade-off? It's great for the environment, and I'm a tree hugger at heart. But on the flip side, that's going to save thousands of dollars in postage for these bills that continually have to go out by law.
Absolutely. Speaking of taxes, one of the things that you're running on your platform, specifically up against the opposition here, is the issue of cutting taxes, right? So tell us a little bit about where you stand and what you're up against on the other side when it comes to cutting taxes.
The current supervisor is Laura Gillen, and last year when she presented her very first budget, she sought to raise millions of dollars in additional taxes. The town board members, the Republican delegation, and the sitting Democrat cut that and put forth a tax cut of millions of dollars, saving people money. And when it came time for the vote, the town board approved it, and the only dissenting votes, the person who said, I vote no, was Laura Gillen, the current supervisor. That's not right. That's not fair. The biggest factor for anybody living on Long Island is the cost of living. You see studies, that's why younger people are leaving, seniors are being forced out of their communities. We want people to stay here. We want to thrive. Then we have to find ways to lower taxes and costs. But I think what's most troubling is the fact that now, after voting no on a tax cut, she's gone out there at public forums, on social media. Recently, she was standing with Chuck Schumer, where she was saying, we cut taxes in the town of Hempstead. Well, that's not true. It was funny. I have three kids, a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 6-year-old. My two oldest are girls. And my 9-year-old daughter saw that, and she looked at me and she says, well, Dad, she didn't cut taxes. She voted against that. Isn't that a lie? And I said, Margaret, you know what? If a 9-year-old can figure this out, then the taxpayers should.
So now this isn't something that you are hoping to accomplish on your own. You have a team of people with you that are on this ticket as well.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about this team and what they all bring to the table and how that's going to impact the residents of the town of Hempstead.
You know what? It's very easy to fight with people. It's much harder to work together. And one of the problems that Laura Gillen's faced is when she became the supervisor, in the first 100 days, she sued all of her colleagues on the town board. That isn't creating a way to work together. In this race, I've been endorsed by the sitting town councilman, Anthony D'Esposito, and Dennis Dunn. They're not running, but they endorsed me. Laura Gillen, as her chief deputy supervisor, she picked Bruce Blakeman, who's on the ballot this year. Bruce is actually endorsing me, and to think the deputy supervisor, handpicked by Laura Gillen, now endorses me, I think that speaks volumes about what he thinks of being able to work with her compared to me. I'm also running with Tommy Muscarella and Chris Carini, Seaford and Garden City areas. It's a team. And then townwide, I'm running with, for town clerk, someone who was town clerk. She was a supervisor. She's no stranger in politics. Kate Murray. She was very popular. I laugh all the time because she hasn't been in an elected office in over 4 years, and when we go out, you wouldn't know that because people have such a positive feeling. And Kate's doing this for all the right reasons. I mean, Kate's going to be the next town clerk, and she's going to be taking a pay cut to do this. Why? Because she feels strongly that the government in the town is not functioning, and it needs to be cohesive, a government that gets along that to succeed. And the next receiver of taxes is Jeanine Driscoll, a dynamic mother, a full-time aviation attorney, a former associate justice. She brings so much to the ticket. It's great. But again, we run as a team. It's all of us, and they support me. And I think that's one of the key elements that really convinced me in the end to do this run, where the town board members came to me and said, Don, you need to do this run. We need to change. Nothing's happening in the town of Hempstead right now. No development, no successes because of the fighting. It's turned into, how do I get a picture in the paper by the supervisor? And people are tired of that. And that's why I said, you know what, we're going to work together. We're going to lower taxes, and you know what, we're going to make tough choices. We're going to revamp the town government, and that's something that I'm very focused on. That I'm going to make some dramatic changes, but they're for the better. Let it be in the parks, in the building department, in highway. We're going to make the changes the residents need, because this is the largest township in America. It's a very diverse community, and we want to make sure everybody's represented in the government, and that's something I pledge.
Talk about representation in the government in terms of the South Asian community. How are you involving them in the political process, and what do you do, whether it's on a personal or political level, to get involved with the South Asian community in all of the programs that they have here?
As I said, the town is a very diverse area, but the South Asian community has just grown and grown. In the last 10 years, communities like parts of Valley Stream, where I grew up, Elmont, Salisbury, East Meadow, Levittown. You know what? Residents, we all want the same thing. We just want good services, but we need to be representative in government. And I feel that there are a lot of communities that are lacking. I reach out to every community. I hold tax forums on a regular basis, where I've helped thousands of people lower their taxes, or to challenge their assessment themselves instead of using firms. I hold forums in every community on file for tax exemptions, because a lot of these residents are new not only to the town, but in some cases to the United States of America. And I like that. I like that idea of reaching out to them. But what's troubling is they don't have a voice right now. When Laura Gillen became supervisor, she brought in people who don't even live in the town of Hempstead to be on her staff. She has over a $2 million patronage staff, and basically it's of people who don't even live here. Well, I've already pledged to people that, one, Day one, I'm going to cut the staff in half. We're going to take $1 million and put that back into the wallets of the taxpayers. And two, I'm going to create a staff that's going to be representative of the residents here. And that's why I seek counsel of different leaders. Let it be from the South Asian community to, at the communities in Uniondale, Hempstead, who feel they've lost a voice, that they don't have a seat at the table. And you know what? We're all the same. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if we're black, white, man, woman. We all, we all care about the basics. Affordability, creating some wealth to pass on to our children, and safety.
How do you balance bringing in businesses and infrastructure and preserving the traditional way of life that people often seek in places like Long Island, the suburbs? You put down roots, you buy a home, you start a family. How do you balance those two?
It's interesting, that question, because in the last 10 years, we've seen a real transition. We've seen a lot of families who the parents want to stay here, but they don't want that big house. The kids have moved away. But on the flip side, you have a lot of the kids who are saying, I want to stay here, but it's so expensive. I think in the town, we've done a pretty steady job of finding, that mixed use, embracing downtowns, and that's something I want to see continue. Areas like Baldwin, they have a wonderful opportunity with a $10 million gift from New York State. It could be a transit-oriented area right there where people go into the city. We need to do more of that. The IDA, I want to expand it, that the IDA people utilize not only to do one building, but to expand in an entire community, make the investment. There are so many great opportunities for Elmont with the development. The hub, to Inwood, we've done rezoning. Down in Island Park, we opened up and expanded the transit-oriented area that they were able to build new developments and get people on the trains. And it's a plus in that younger people will stay here, but now their parents, when they want to sell, now they can still stay local to see their kids and their grandkids.
Thank you so much for your time, Don. In closing, do you have any messages for our viewers, and specifically about when and how they should vote?
Well, you know what? Election day, of course, is November 5th. New York, we have early voting, so you'll be able to start voting at 20 different locations, October 20th. And I just tell people, you know what? Choose the person, not the candidate. Do your research. You know what? Find out who's kept their word and kept their commitment and done a good job, and support that person. And that's really what the big focus should always be for every voter. But you have to vote. You have to make your voice heard. If you do not vote, you're hurting yourself. So get out there and support whoever it is, but I'm hopefully you'll support me and my team. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time, Don. You heard it right here.
A pleasure.
Get out the vote. This was a special episode of The Bottom Line. We're going to talk with the rest of Don's team, but first we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. And now we're sitting with Mr. Chris Carini, the current committeeman on the Seaford Republican Club. And Chris, you are running for a seat on the Town of Hempstead Council Board. Please tell us a little bit about what you're running specifically for and what voters can expect when you're in office.
Well, I'm running for the 5th Councilmatic District for the Town of Hempstead Board. I'm currently running with Don Clavin for supervisor and the rest of the Republican team. Specifically, what we're running on is to shrink the size of government, to hold the line on taxes, and to invest in our infrastructure. One of the biggest complaints I hear from residents of Seaford and Wantagh are that the condition of our roads is not acceptable. We're looking to invest doubling the budget from $36 million to $70 million to invest in our roadways. And we're going to do that while holding the line on taxes and shrinking the size of government.
Now, you have a unique background professionally in some of the organizations you've been involved with when it comes to tackling these issues. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, currently I'm the vice president for the Wantagh Seaford Homeowners Association. That's a civic group for the Wantagh Seaford area. One of the biggest complaints I do get, being a member of that group, is the condition of the roadways. I also serve on Commissioner Ryder's Police Community Council, which gives local leaders and civic associations direct access to the police commissioner. So I've developed an open line of communication between our community and directly to the police department. I also serve on I've served on a couple of school board safety and security committees. I'm involved in my school district. In my professional life, I will be retiring on Monday from the police department. I've served 22 years as a police officer, the last 18 with the Port Authority Police, the last 10 as a PBA trustee. So I've been a union rep for most of my career.
Very nice. Well, we thank you for your time on the police department as always. And can people expect that same level of vigilance and safety for their children if you're elected to the seat?
Well, absolutely, safety is going to be paramount. I've always been involved in my community. I've formed a neighborhood watch group on Facebook to share all safety tips, crime information going on in the neighborhood, and prevention tips. We also share information of any alerts that come out that we need to be aware of in the community. I'm going to continue that on a bigger level as a councilman. My experience as a police officer will be unique to that subject and many other subjects as well.
And the town of Hempstead being as vast as it is, and it's one of the largest towns in the entire, it is the largest town in the entire country, bigger than certain states' populations.
Yeah, almost 800,000 residents.
Absolutely. What kind of policies would you bring on board to tackle not just the diversity, but the sheer size of this community?
Well, luckily, we are broken into 6 different councilmanic districts. So my specific area is going to cover Wantagh, Seaford, most of Wantagh, Seaford, parts of Belmore, Merrick, Baldwin, Freeport, Baldwin Harbor, and I also consume all of Lido Beach and Point Lookout. So I have a specific area, and something that might be prominent in Seaford might be different in Point Lookout, which is mostly, a very big coastal community, even though Seaford has some coastal things as well. So shoring up the structure of our shorelines is a very important issue. Many are still dealing with the recovery efforts from Sandy as well. Everyone's complaining about the roads, so we have to fix the roads. And I also tackle quality of life issues in the town. One of the things I advocated for as a civic person is the conditions of the Long Island Railroad. Quality of life is big, so we had graffiti issues up at our overpasses. I had that removed. Even though it is Long Island Railroad property, they can still come to me as a council person to address any quality of life issues that affect them in their community. I will be here to answer all questions. And if it's not my agency that deals with it, I will pass it off to the proper agency to make sure the constituents are happy and they have somebody they can go to answer their questions.
That's good to know. And you are a resident of this area?
Yes.
Yes.
I've been living in Seaford since 2005. My wife has spent most of her life there. She graduated and was the president of her high school class.
Okay.
I have my daughter, Ava, who's 12. She's in 7th grade in the middle school. And I have a son named Joe. He's in 2nd grade. He's in the Manor Elementary School.
Very nice. And as we wrap up here, why don't you tell our viewers what it is they need to do if they want to get out the vote for you and your team?
Well, it's very important. Early voting starts this year, which is October 26th. There's 14, I believe, sites throughout Nassau County. You can go to any of those sites to vote up until Election Day. On Election Day, you have to go to your regular polling place. This is new to New York. It was passed last year. So I urge everybody, don't wait. Go out and vote. Support Don Clavin and the rest of the Republican team. Jeanine Driscoll for Receiver of Taxes, and of course Kate Murray for Town Clerk, and the rest of the council person running on our slate. We're going to lower taxes, reduce the size of government, and invest in our infrastructure. This is a team you can count on. This is a team that passed a tax cut last year against the wishes of Supervisor Gillen, who actually, in fact, wanted an increase in taxes. So when you hear the campaign rhetoric out there, the facts are she voted against a tax hike. It's documented on many videos of her voting no. So if you want to keep taxes low and you want to invest in your infrastructure, vote Don Clavin and the rest of the Republican team starting on October 26th and on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for your time. And stay tuned. We'll be back with more of Don Clavin and his team. And now I'm joined with Ms. Jeanine Driscoll, who is running for the Town of Hempstead Receiver of Taxes. This is a new role for Jeanine, but that does not mean she's new in local government or in the professional world at all. Jeanine, before we kind of get started of what you're looking to bring to the table in this specific role as Receiver of Taxes for the Town of Hempstead, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about your background?
Thank you. I'm an attorney. I work in the city. I do different types of litigation. I work in the realm of aviation, insurance, and employment law. I'm also a mother of 5, working mother of 5, and that's always very challenging, balancing career and home. I was also appointed in 2015 the Village Justice, Associate Justice in the Village of Belrose, which is my hometown. And I really enjoyed doing that. Unfortunately, in order to run in this election, I had to step down from that position. But it was definitely something that I knew I wanted to do. I'm involved with my church. My local Catholic church is Our Lady of Victory. I teach a religion class there. I've been doing it for 14 years. Once a week to the young children. I also am a Eucharistic minister at Mass, and I'm a member of the parish council. currently serving my second year as the president of the Floral Park Memorial High School PTA. And the other thing that I've done in the past is we have a club in Belrose Village. It's called the Junior Women's Club of Belrose. It's about 120 members, and I'm a past president of that, although I'm still very active with that. We do programs. I run a program at Christmas out of our village with the Belmont families that come, and we do Christmas gifts, holiday gifts for those families. So that's really what keeps me busy these days.
That's quite a busy docket right there. So, you know, you have a lot of experience in a wide variety of both professional and personal kind of activities. Tell us what specifically makes you the best candidate for the receiver of taxes for the town of Hempstead.
Well, I think that, you know, one of the things that I definitely bring to the table is an ability to be organized and an ability to get things done. You know, on the personal side, handling a household of 5 children with no domestic help is challenging. That's one thing. But really, I think the most important thing that I've learned in my career is through working at my law firm, and at one point managing a law firm, managing the employees, is really from a labor relations standpoint. I think I'm very well equipped to deal with, you know, a large group of employees like we have at the receiver's office. I've also, within the context of being an aviation lawyer, have represented the airlines in employment-related issues, including issues, you know, involving the unions. And I've, you know, worked on drafting language for the collective bargaining agreements. I've handled arbitrations with the union, and I have been able to basically reach many resolutions and avoid arbitration. So I think that, you know, in the context of the receiver's office, you know, being the receiver of taxes, the people that work there, you know, they're proud of what they do, and I think you just have to be there for them and make sure that everybody's doing their job, we're being efficient, and, you know, if there's a problem, we're going to work on it. We're not going to just go through all the procedures. We can sit down, have a conversation, and really kind of work through things. And so I think that in that context, I probably would be a very good candidate.
Tell me a little bit about, so you're running with Don Clavin as supervisor on his ticket and with the rest of your team. Tell me a little bit about what all of you collectively bring to the table that sets you apart, and specifically Don Clavin's leadership in this regard.
Well, I think there's a number of things. I would say foremost is that we all really get along very well. We're a team, and, you know, from the beginning of this, that was our thinking. We're going to run as a team. And, you know, we kept joking, well, even if we don't like each other, we're on the same team. But it just so happens we all like each other. And I have formed a bond, a very close bond now, you know, with Don and Kate. I'm in contact with them all the time. We campaign together. We work together. We help each other. You know, everybody understands Don has a family. I have, you know, children also. And we work around each other's schedules. We have a mutual respect and admiration for each other. And I think that, you know, ideally, you know, if we all get elected, which we have to assume we will, we're going to do a lot together for the town of Hempstead. And that's something we talk about quite often. And the nice part about that also is that the councilmen that are running are all on the same page as well. It's Tom Muscarella, Chris Carini, and of course Bruce Blakeman. We all get along, and we all want to work together, and we want to advocate for each other.
Well, that sounds like good news for the town of Hempstead residents. In closing, why don't you tell our viewers what they need to do to get out the vote?
Well, the one thing that I would ask you to do is to talk to people, educate people, let people know that we've got a great team. Let people know that we want to put the taxpayers first. I'm a taxpayer, Don's a taxpayer, Kate's a taxpayer. We all have families. We worry about our families. And that's what people should be thinking about. People should be thinking about picking up the phone, sending an email, sending a text, remind people to get out and vote. Although, you know, some people don't think it's a very important election because there's no congressman, congresswoman, or Senate race on the ticket this year. It's actually a really critical race for the town of Hempstead. And I think that the more we talk about taxes and the assessment, the more critical everybody's vote will be. So what I would say is, really, from the bottom of my heart, we want to make Nassau County strong again. We want to make Hempstead Town a great town again. Get out the vote, spread the word. We have 10 days of early voting starting on Saturday, October 26th. It runs through Election Day, Tuesday, November 5th. And there are various locations where you can vote during that 10-day period. On November 5th, you go to your regular polling station, but you only have to vote once. So if you get to your one of those other polling stations once before, you're done, and you'll have more time to go out and get other people to vote. So that's really what my message would be.
Thank you so much for your time, Jeanine. We wish you all the luck, and stay tuned. We'll be back after this short break. Welcome back from break. You're watching a special episode of The Bottom Line. We are here in Hicksville, New York, talking with the team of individuals that are running for the Town of Hempstead Supervisor, Council Board, and County Clerk. Right now, I'm sitting with Mr. Thomas Muscarella, who is currently a council member on this seat and is running for re-election as part of this wonderful team that we have gotten a chance to speak to today. Tom, before I kind of get into what it is that you've done, what it is you hope to continue to do, tell our viewers a little bit about your background as part of the community in the town of Hempstead on Long Island.
Right now, I'm serving the Councilmanic District number 2, which includes Floral Park, South Floral Park, Elmont, Garden City, Incorporated Village of Stewart Manor, New Hyde Park, Belrose Terrace, East Meadow, Salisbury, and parts of, I mentioned East Meadow. And I grew up in a family, my grandfather was on Floral Parkway in Floral Park. My father actually moved to Elmont. I graduated Covert Avenue, Sewanaka High School. My business, insurance, my father's insurance business was in Franklin Square. I presently live in the area over there by Stewart Manor, Garden City. And basically that's my background. I'm one of 7 children. My father had 6 sons and 3 jobs. He was an insurance agent, a lawyer, and he was a councilman of this district. And basically instilled in us that out of the 3 jobs, his favorite was public service. And some of my brothers were fortunate to have that earlier than I, and I am pursuing that profession for the reasons of my father.
Coming to public service, you currently hold this seat. Tell us a little bit about what you've done in your time as a council member of the 2nd District.
Well, basically I went around, and I want to call it a listening tour, only because we have incorporated villages that face some situations, and then we have unincorporated villages that we're responsible for as a town councilman. The trees, the water, the sanitation, the roads. The incorporated villages, smaller government tends to be more effective. So I just want to make sure the town of Hempstead is similar to the incorporated villages I have. They do a very well job. I think Ronald Reagan once said that the smaller government is more efficient. I believe that to be true. I leave the incorporated villages alone. I try to mimic and learn from them in efforts so that the other areas around that are not incorporated village have the same services.
Going into the next election term, you are running for the seat again. You have a team with you. We've spoken to some of them. Don Clavin for supervisor, your fellow council members. Tell us a little bit about the leadership on this team and what all of you collectively bring to the table.
When I saw the way it went last year in reference to the pendulum shifting over to the Democratic Party, I said to myself I would do everything possible to make sure that the right type of representation is in this councilmanic district and in the town of Hempstead to bring back good Republican leadership. And I said also that I would definitely help any way that I'm needed for Don Clavin, because he happens to be a friend of mine. He has to be a very good mentor and a public service, only to find myself in a position as a councilman to be in that. And it's most important that somebody like Don Clavin, Jeanine Driscoll, Kate Murray, that would bring it all together so we can show the town of Hempstead what it really is like to have the, I want to say the A team, the B team, the A team, to make sure that we have the right type of Republican leadership.
So the town of Hempstead is obviously the largest township in the country, larger than some states' populations. It is also one of the most diverse. The specific towns and villages under your care are particularly diverse. What have you done and what will you do to not just connect with this community, with the South Asian community in particular, but to involve them in local government?
Well, being that I'm a byproduct of Elmont, and I think Elmont has the most diversity, and I love Elmont, and my father loved Elmont, and every one of my brothers and sisters going through that Sewanaka School District are connected to that, and we will do everything possible to make sure that that unique diversity plays out, and we want to be a part of that. I don't know when you wanted me to speak about the Southeast community.
Please, go for it, yeah.
Okay. So I have a very special love for the Southeast community. My father-in-law, who taught me about Southeast Asia, he happened to be stationed in India during World War II. He always said, when he came back, he said it was one of the finest times of his life. He always found the Indian people in that area to be very kind and gentle and a peaceful type of person. They were taught the King's English. He was there to defend, and he was second generation Italian American. He was there to defend America for democracy. He was very happy to be there in India, and the way he taught us. And every time I saw him, he actually brought up India and the people and his love to that part of the country. And they are very important. So when I go around the Indian community, I always think of him, and I always know that he's there. And he talked to me about the different ways that the democracy, the English culture, and then he also lived in Jackson Heights, and that was a big Indian community. And that's how I know that the Indian community and myself and him, I was taught very well that they're special people, very important to the American future and to our future of this councilmanic district. So I'm very excited to be.
That's wonderful to hear from you. Tom, tell us a little bit about how, basically, what will be different in the next 2 years. You and your team make it, you win the election, right? You get reelected. What can the average constituent expect?
Well, one of the issues is I want to say this about Don Clavin. Don Clavin is the receiver of taxes. He has no say in how the taxes are allocated. So this is an opportunity for the town of Hempstead to give somebody who we trust, who has the test of time, the money that we gave him for the past 15 years as a receiver of taxes, the opportunity to properly spend those taxes for effective services. Services like the road, services like the water, the cleanliness of the water, the drinking, the sanitation, the curb appeal. That's what I would like to make known. And I go back to, again, my father. My father, I remember when he left the family and he disappeared for a week, he came back and my mother said, your father's home, he's back from Germany, and he has an announcement to you. And he said to us how no longer are we going to bury our sanitation in the ground. We're bringing back, and I was 8 years old, a recycling plant from Germany, one of the first in the nation, a recycling plant. If you go by Roosevelt Field, you'll see that recycling plant today. So everybody, speaks about being an environmentalist and doing the right thing. So I know that my father, as a pioneer and a person of the past, brought that to today's day, and it's still there. I want to continue that type of future that we have, and there's a lot of other things going on that on Long Island that we need to address. The roads, the congestion, and I really believe that sooner or later we're going to have, between the use of drones and Amazon, a way to free up a lot of things that are local on the one-dimensional on the roads, and I think the drones, and I'm not saying flying vehicles and stuff like that, but I think we can do that as a future.
Well,
Bypass
that's
all those bridges and the tolls and the congestion, and we'll...
exciting times ahead,
Yes.
right? Tom Muscarella running with the team run by Don Clavin for supervisor for the town of Hempstead. Elections are coming up. In closing, what would you like to tell our viewers about getting the vote out?
Well, basically, this is a different type of year. Andrew Cuomo has required us the opportunity to have 10 days of voting in 15 different locations. He would like to believe that people don't have that opportunity. Now that we have it, we have to must put it in use. Don Clavin, the Republican Party, would very much want you to come out at the convenience of your time to make sure that Republican good government is in place during those 10 days and after. And the promise is this: we're going to have a better outcome, and it's a guarantee, a better outcome in the town of Hempstead for the future of people to be able to afford the town of Hempstead and stay here.
Thank you so much for your time. Tom Muscarella, the entire team was here discussing exactly this election with us today. Once again, I want to thank all of our viewers for watching. We appreciate your time. And if you happen to live on Long Island, then you have all the information you need to get the vote out, whether it's for the town of Hempstead or for the town of Oyster Bay. The candidates have spoken. And this was a special episode of The Bottom Line. I'm Aashmeeta. Thank you for watching.